because this is the way to maximize brand visibility and lead generation. And the reason why this is so important, Insight Group talks about it, 91% of particularly B2B purchases are influenced by word of mouth, and channel recruitment is no different.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for tuning into Channel Voices, the podcast for future channel leaders, where we learn the ins and outs of partner ecosystems through casual conversations with channel professionals from a variety of industries, partner types, and geographies. My name is Maciek, and I'm your host. In today's episode, I have the pleasure to host an international channel strategist and business development executive passionate about bringing together state-of-the-art technology, programs, and partnerships to deliver best-in-class growth opportunities to B2B organizations. Throughout her career, she has held multiple roles in channel management and strategy across Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Americas. Beside her current role in channel, she also holds a strategic business development position with other Canon divisions, where cross-functional collaboration is key. She has several postgraduate degrees in business and economics, including an MBA. She is a mother of two and a trained yoga teacher who enjoys spending time with her family and friends when not at work. Paula Carvalho, welcome to Channel Voices.
Maciek, thank you so much. I'm so glad you are doing this series of channel management. I listened to so many of your podcasts you recorded, and they're a wonderful source of expertise for channel marketeers. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Particularly with 75% of the world trade flowing through indirect channels, we really need more best practice sharing channel. Also because business schools are still, unfortunately, not teaching channel management. So I feel honored to be here today. Thank you.
No, I'm very honored that you're being the guest on Channel Voices today. And yeah, the business schools, the MBAs, I mean, this keeps coming up pretty much on every single podcast. And we all kind of scratch our heads, like, how come channel is not part of the curriculum? It's somewhat... Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just missed. Is it deliberately not taught? Or maybe everyone who's successful in channel doesn't really want to go and teach other people. They'd rather mentor people on the job. I'm not really sure about this, but this is very intriguing subject, I think.
It is, I agree. And just like I said, with 75% of the world trade flowing through indirect channel, it's more than justified for business schools to actually take this on board. And you mentioned about MBAs. I myself have an MBA, and I was seeking, that expertise in terms of business in channel when I did it, and I didn't found it. I found it in podcasts like yours, and attending channel conferences, and listening to experts, that share their vision and share how they succeeded and helped us out to actually avoid doing mistakes that could be avoidable.
Excellent. Well, I hope that today's podcast, the episode on partner recruitment, is going to help a lot of professionals in the channel. So the first question I would like to begin with is, where do vendors start, or where should they start when they're planning their recruitment process when it comes to channel partners?
Maciek, I am so passionate about channel recruitment planning. It's truly an essential part of channel management. I could literally talk about this topic for the whole podcast if you let me. But instead, I'm going to pick what I consider to be the top 3 areas that over the years, working in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and more recently in the Americas, I labeled to be foundational and fundamental. And why do I find them to be so critical? In essence, these 3 areas build the needed telescope and microscope to support a vendor's channel ecosystem.
Okay, that's absolutely perfect. So you have really thought about this. So you obviously have the experience. So the telescope and the microscope, that is very interesting, because obviously you don't want to be just looking at the things that are happening right now, and you're focusing on at the moment which are the right partners to recruit, but you're also saying you have to be looking out. You always have to be, this is how I understand it, you always have to be looking out further afield to see if there's any other partner types coming up maybe that would be beneficial to your business, etc. Right? Am I correct in understanding this?
You're absolutely correct, Magic. It's, the mission and the vision has to be very clear, but it has to be very agile as well. So in order to truly build a good telescope, right, in terms of strategy, and a microscope in order to actually meet the business objectives, the three areas that I think are really critical are: number one, and it's really the starting point, is organizational readiness. Number two, entering market with a bang. It has to be first time right. And last, number three, then selecting partners right for the job. And the interesting part is that if the first two happen successfully, selecting partners right for the job will be an easier task, because potential partners will proactively start to seek the vendor instead.
Excellent. So you mentioned the three fundamentals: the organizational readiness, enter the market with a bang, and selecting the right partners for the job. Can we expand a little bit more on the organizational readiness? Because I speak to many vendors day in and day out, some of them a bit further down the road when it comes to building their channel, some of them just starting. So they're looking for, yes, we don't have that many channel staff or channel managers. We need to do it somehow. We'll definitely need a PRM to manage a lot of that, try to do some automation, etc. But from your experience, what is organizational readiness?
Very good. And it's all what you said. I think you're already summarizing a lot what needs to be in place. But looking at now, I have to say 20 years in channel, and it just goes so fast. Like, as everybody that is passionate about their job and what they do, and I think in channel we have a lot of passionate people. And I think one of your podcasts, I don't recall the lady, but she was talking about partner success, and she said, if you're in channel management and you don't like people, this is not the right place for you. And I so agree with that, because it's really about relationships, establishing great relationships. But for that, in order to create great relationships, the vendor organization has to be ready to deliver. And throughout the years, what I see as first and foremost, having solid executive sponsorship is particularly important in an organization with a direct and indirect channel routes to market, like, for instance, Canon that I work for. Only this way it's possible to have the needed infrastructure that you mentioned and the programs to support partner success from the get-go, like a PRM and flexible and scalable partner programs. And once the executive sponsorship is established, I personally found very, very useful to go on a tour within my own company, to guarantee right partner experience, because channel support is by nature very cross-functional.
Absolutely, I could not agree more. And even when it comes to purchasing a piece of software to support channel organization, that high level, the C level executive sponsorship, and making sure that the rest of the organization is behind doing this. I mean, it's so important. I couldn't agree with that any more than you just said. Then we talked about that. You mentioned it's one of the fundamentals, the entering the market with a bang. Can you elaborate on this? I'm struggling to understand maybe completely how you think that could work.
I totally understand. So after launching so many products in so many different areas, all in the technology world, but across B2B and B2C, I really came to the conclusion that once the organization is ready as a vendor and organization, yeah, you kind of have to enter the market with a bang. And what I mean with that is it has to be done first time right, because market relaunches are so expensive, come with diminished results, and are often detrimental to the brand. So, in how to get into the market in a very impactful way, and how to reassure that is actually getting in the inner circle. And what I mean with that is by building a powerful channel influencers community, because this is the way to maximize brand visibility and lead generation. And the reason why this is so important, Insight Group talks about it. 91% of particularly B2B purchases are influenced by word of mouth, and channel recruitment is no different.
Okay, I get that now. Thank you very much. We see companies kind of trying the soft approach with digital marketing first, trying to gain some traction that way. But what you're saying, sit down, spend enough time to make sure that this is the right approach, and then go full on and make an impact straight away.
Absolutely. So uh, when we talk particularly about the channel ecosystem, and I'm such a fan of this new terminology that is used, and about the focus that is put on the channel influencer community as identified as a right channel. It's a channel by right. That's the expressions I was looking for. It's a channel by right. In the past, we're seeing something that marketing, particularly the marketing team, would do, is to try to advertise, is to try to convey the message through digital marketing communications. And that is very essential. That is a very critical aspect to build momentum for successful partnership engagement. But to have, the organizations, associations, sponsors within the area where you want to touch your partners, your targeted partners. You want them to be your sponsors. You want them to be the ones to carry your message to the channel community.
Okay, thank you. And then obviously it's choosing the right partner for the job. But before we even go there, I mean, vendors have to realize what type of partners they need before they choose the right one. But there's taken one step back even, how should the vendor decide which route to go to? Should they go one tier channel, two tier channel? Should they go with value added resellers? Should they go with those influencers, those who recommend their solutions in the marketplace? Or should they go with distribution and tap into that distributor's partner network?
I think you just asked $1 million question, Majek, because
Is there $1 million answer?
well, it depends, right? It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the market. It depends on so many different things, because, and it's true, the route to market selection is a very important decision for vendors, specifically for those going to market for the first time. Overall, deciding on one versus two-tier channel, it seems to be a compromise of a combination of factors, such as type of product and sale. Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it service based? Is it niche or not? Also, what are the available channel options, right? And what is the competitive landscape in that respect? Another one is vendor organization ability to support different route to markets, not just from an ease of doing business, but also offered product margin attractiveness, right? Do we have the offer in order to attract that particular channel? And very important to many partners, particularly in the distribution, is the business volume potential. They won't talk to a vendor unless they can sense the opportunity being at a certain level. So sometimes a vendor has to implement a route to market staged approach to accommodate future scalability. And in the end, the answer is that sometimes It doesn't have to be one or a two-tier. It can be a blended approach, depending on what partners have the best access to the targeted vertical customer segments. I really enjoyed your podcast with Matt Scotney Jones about partner account management. It totally brought back great memories of my time in channel sales, but also has great insights on partner and vendor fit that I would recommend to listeners to check out if they haven't.
Perfect. Thank you for the seamless plug there. That was amazing. But let's say the vendor they know how to go to market. They have scoped out the market for the type of partners they need. They know how they're going to go to the market, be it one or two tier, or maybe a blend of both. And I just keep thinking of the discussion I had with Oliver Roth from Prianto Distribution, and him telling me how he gets approached and how often and how many requests he gets from vendors that want to work with him. But the approach rarely is the right approach from the vendor side. So from your point of view, how should a vendor approach a potential partner? Is there a golden rule? Is there, from your experience, what has worked for you?
Another great question, Majek, because like you said, particularly the channel partners or potential channel partners that carry the opportunity that a vendor is often looking for, do get solicited a lot, by vendors, big, small, and they have to take decisions, actually to steer a great ship left or right. Right. It's a big undertaking. It's a huge decision for a channel partner. So they have to be very wise on their choices so that they don't also disrupt the organization and create unnecessary distractions. But having said that, I believe there is a winning formula in partner recruitment, regardless of geography. And this winning formula is made of some basic universal channel laws that one needs to sprinkle with local business practices. But even local business practices are quickly dissipating thanks to events such as COVID and overall internationalization of business. I certainly experienced that in the past 15 months. So I'm going to tell you a little story to tell you because about my early channel career that I think it's relevant because in the end, it's all about agility. It's all about flexibility and keeping an open mind. Because as I was discussing how to overcome some channel negotiation challenges with a leader at Canon in Europe, he turned to me and recommended I read Sun Tzu's Military Principles applied to business and daily life. It was
interesting.
Yes, and I so recommend it. I wish I had read it like at the beginning of even my career, to be honest, and because it was so transformative. Once I was able to develop that strategic mindset, I started to feel any challenge can be overcome. And that is truly the secret sauce to successful partner recruitment because it is very challenging, because of what you just mentioned and so many other factors. And the reason why it's so challenging as well is because partners create a comfort zone around current vendors. Even around vendors, they are so dissatisfied with. So one needs to be very strategic on how to handle this change management, which ends up being. So one way I find very effective is to reach out again to my community of channel influencer partners so I get valuable intel on ways to add value to those target partners. And as we know, this is not available on Google or LinkedIn, despite of sometimes what people expect, these precious insights that just help us to fine tune the value proposition so that it really sinks in whenever we're discussing with a partner.
Yeah. And sorry, Paula, just one thing that I'm also thinking about as you're talking through this. So Oliver also mentioned, he gets a lot of emails, but a lot of emails, it's just like spray and pray. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, I hope it sticks with this distributor, that our solution is going to be attractive to him and his partners. Um, but that's very similar to just a cold call, right? From from a BDR or something like that, and hope that they can generate some interest. But partnerships don't develop that way, right? And him getting 20 emails per week asking to look at that vendor's solution and hopefully close a partnership, I mean, that is not necessarily the right approach, is it?
I agree, Maciek. Is we are all bombarded with offerings and great digital marketing these days, and it is a necessary part of our business. But I think we can do much more that we're right now implemented in channel marketing. I think we can talk a little bit more about the vision and the mission that I see myself in terms of the future of channel. um, and you talked about this digital marketing being really cold calling. I totally agree. And so we even in companies like Kenna with a very strong brand recognition, it's where it's not difficult to get a meeting with a potential partner.
Mm-hmm.
The brand itself is very important and remains very important because of the credibility that comes along with it and carrying those products. But I think that being introduced again by a trusted source of that partner, and I mean again the channel community of the influencers, the quality of the meetings and following negotiations is totally unmatched.
Yeah, yeah. So just develop that partnership before you
Absolutely.
even put an offer in front of a potential partner, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I before I started my career in channel management, my previous job was actually international account management. And I find them to be very similar, managing very large organizations, um, multinational companies in my particular case, but, major accounts, the account management of major accounts and channel management in nature are very similar. That's what I see. We have to know very well the organization. We have to put that effort up front, and we have to establish a comfort zone, let's say, that the partner is willing to come and discuss with us and take consideration based also on experience of other organizations that surround him or her.
Very good. Very good that you mentioned how you came into the channel and what your role has been before. I'm starting to discover, well, maybe not discover, but it's a confirmation of the typical path of a channel professional. They typically start in sales, right? They get to look after really larger customers, those keys accounts on a vendor side, and then from there they applied similar skills to develop partnerships and sell with or through partners, right? It seems to me that more often than not, channel professionals come from the direct sales side of business.
Yeah, I have the same experience, and I find the reason why is because there's a skill set that is necessary, that is related to the strategy of managing a long-term relationship, where there's a need for a constant touch, but it's not on a short sales cycle. It's considered overall that partnership is almost like a long-term sales cycle. So I think there is, there's a relevance that has to be brought into the management of the partnership that is always focused on value, constant value. It's like two organizations truly partnering in order to be successful and to create that interdependency, just like in a major account.
Excellent. I think that's a good segue to your offer to discuss how you see the the future of channel. So maybe let's go there. What do you see maybe changing in the near or even the distant future? How do you think the channel management will change?
Majek, thank you for for bringing us here to this question, because channel management, like so many other business areas, is at a critical cross junction right now. 76% of business leaders expect their current business models to be unrecognizable in 5 years, and channel will be no exception. Also, we know that in excess right now of 67% of buyer journey is now online. And this trend will accelerate further thanks to COVID. So channel management will be highly impacted and benefit from current technology trends such as virtual channel engagement. This will definitely accelerate to truly become the default to enable as many meaningful touches as possible at the lowest cost. I think also there will be a standardization of predictive and collaborative analytics to support the needed agility, and correct resource allocation. Particularly, predictive analytics is so important to improving the return on channel investment for business dependent on high volume generation with low margin sales. And collaborative analytics will provide the path to higher partner mindshare and loyalty.
That's very, very interesting. And that's something that Jay McBain mentioned in our conversation. And he was saying that yes, the channel professional landscape will change. We'll get to see more analysts coming into channel management, where they will exactly do as you describe, right? They will take advantage of those modern technologies and getting those analytics into their hands and see where things are going. And the channel will be managed more from that analytical standpoint, and maybe relationships management is always going to be there, but those analytics are going to have so much more impact on the channel as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree, and I think there is this confusion of associating these new technology trends, in particular, artificial intelligence, associated with machine learning operations and modeling, with um, de-associating from a human relationship with the channel. It's exactly the opposite. All this modeling, all these trends, all this segmentation that is based on mega data will allow the channel, particular channel marketeers, to become more accurate and more effective in their communication, because we know now that 71% of buyers reach vendor selection without using traditional sales processes and demos. So it is something that channel will have to get to embrace. And so channel marketeers will definitely benefit greatly from embracing data metrics. And also another important area is to demonstrate the ability to work in cross-functional matrix organizations, like shown on Google's Project Aristotle, which talks a lot about the positive psychology and a psychological safety for people to actually be able to collaborate, in an effective way. So, it's fascinating. I love that particular area.
That's fantastic. And Paula, I know we do have limited time, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on partner recruitment and some strategies, and also some trends that you can see already coming in in the very near future. There's one, I mention that on every podcast. There's one thing I really like asking all my guests, and I think it helps a little bit with, context and where people come from, and it helps them to learn a little bit more about you as our guest. And that's, what's the one thing you wish you knew before you started your career in channel?
Yeah, and I, because of the other podcasts, I thought, Magic and will probably ask this question to me. So it took me a while because, like I said at the beginning, channel is a science. Channel management is a science. And unfortunately, many of us had to learn by doing. So one definite thing that would help me meet, or I would recommend, because of current trends, we are all looking into accelerating our ability to do more with less, to leapfrog the learning curve, and to be at ease with change being the new constant. So at the beginning of my career in channel, I wish I knew better about the invaluable benefits of having a mentor specifically in channel management. And if I was to start my career now in channel, I would seek out a mentor with extensive experience in PRM analytics because of what we just discussed in terms of the current and future trends in channel management. So bonding with channel, creating mindshare in a scalable way now requires more than just the human touch.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Muito obrigado. It's been such a pleasure to host you today and learn from you. I'm very sure that our audience have found the same. Again, Paula, I hope we get to speak again on the podcast, maybe on another subject. I mean, you've been doing so much at Canon. You're doing so much across all different regions. Let's stay in touch, and let's see when can we get you on the podcast again.
Thank you, Magic. It will be my pleasure. And again, congratulations on the podcast series and all that you're doing to help channel marketeers, to be able to leapfrog a little bit their learning process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's a wrap for this episode. I do hope you found it valuable, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can also follow Channel Voices Podcast on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, or just visit channelvoices.com where you can send me a message or leave a voicemail. All of the links are listed in the show notes, and once again, I appreciate you tuning in today. Until next time.